All right, so looking at our marine mammals, very broad group, have things like seals, sea lions, dolphins, manatees, all belong to this group. So we've got three main groups of them if we were still doing index cards. The cetacea, the carnivora, and the sirenia. Some marine mammals used to refer to these three diverse groups. Only thing that these ones have in common and why we call them marine mammals is they live in and get all or most of their food from the ocean. We've got about 125 marine mammals worldwide. There's not so many though here in the Gulf of Mexico close to us in Texas. Most of those are cetaceans, so whales and dolphins, and then one sirenian or a manatee. So starting with our whales and dolphins, these would be the cetaceans. Baleen whales are going to be filter feeders. So they've got these big structures of baleen. I've got some more pictures here. These are their teeth that they use to filter small plankton out of the ocean. So little things like krill. Oops, wrong direction. Our baleen whales are some of the largest animals on Earth. So the blue whale is the largest. And here we can see it in comparison to the school bus. And these guys communicate through songs. Let's see if this link works. There we go. All right, so those songs can be heard great distances. I get that big again, there we go. They use it to help find mates. They tend to be solitary unless they're mating. Our other group of whales are the toothed whales. They're going to have more pointed teeth. These are going to be more predators going after their food. They find food by echolocation and communicate with clicks and whistles. And one of your assignments with our marine mammals is to watch a video about more about this communication. Toothed whales include things like dolphins, porpoises, and the unicorn of the sea, the narwhal. Some of our other carnivores include our otters. Otters are the smallest of the marine mammals. Otters are going to be found rimming the North Pacific Ocean. So the yellow is where they're currently found. The red are some areas where they used to be found, but no longer. Otters have faced lots of hunting pressure because of their very dense fur. At one point in time, they were almost hunted to extinction. Then we have the polar bear. This is our only aquatic bear. Out of all the marine mammals, it's the least adapted. Polar bears do swim, but not as well as the other marine mammals. But they're considered, here we go, are linked because they feed primarily off of food that they're getting from the ocean. Fish, and if they can happen to catch a small whale or a seal pup, are favorites. Polar bears are found along the Arctic basin. Their populations are generally in decline due to climate change and melting sea ice. If there's not enough sea ice in the summertime, it makes it harder for them to hunt and find their food. And then we have the pinnipeds. These are the seals, sea lions, and walrus. Our seals are not very mobile on land, really good though at swimming in the water. They're propelled with their back flippers, whereas the sea lions are more mobile on land. If you've ever been to SeaWorld, and they have a sea lion show because the sea lions can hop around on stage. Walruses, which SeaWorld used to have a walrus here, they haven't though for several years. Walruses are also fairly good at moving around on land. Last group, the smallest group, is order Sirenia. These are the dugongs and manatees, and there used to be a sea cow. The dugongs and manatees are all found in warm tropical waters, and they're in decline due to human impact. So water pollution, they tend to live near shore where runoff's a bigger problem. Moat boaters, they're slow going. They tend to get run over by boats. Habitat destruction and hunting. In the United States, they're protected, but not other places. Now, in our picture of these sirenians, we've got a big Steller sea cow here. This guy has the unfortunate title of being the first marine mammal that went extinct. We are extinct because of humans. Went from the time he was discovered to his extinction was just a few decades, and the Steller sea cow, which was the only one to live in colder waters, was hunted out of existence. So some characteristics that all these guys share, they're all mammals, so they all have hair on some part of their body at some part during their life. So a lot of our whales and dolphins lose their hair shortly after they're born. They all nourish their young with milk. They're all warm-blooded. So those that live in the polar areas are going to have lots of blubber to help keep them warm. And they all give birth to live young. With living in the marine environment, they've got some challenges that they have to survive and overcome. So because many of these animals, like the whales, dive, sperm whale is one of the deepest diving whales. They've got to be able to hold their breath because they still breathe air. They've got blowholes. To do this, their myoglobin, we have hemoglobin in our blood. They have myoglobin, which binds the oxygen in a different manner, making it more available for use in metabolism. They also have a diving reflex that helps to slow their pulse rate so they don't use as much oxygen while holding their breath. There's also the water pressure. Again, if things dive deep, you might have noticed in a deep swimming pool, your ears pop if you dive down to the bottom of the deep end. Well, the swimming pool's not very deep compared to where these guys live. So their lungs and sinuses have to be very flexible so they aren't crushed or in pain because of the water pressure. And then they all have streamlined bodies for swimming. And then some of them, their senses, like their eyes, are even slightly modified to help them see better. Seals and sea lions have excellent underwater eyesight because of the change in their shape of eyes. Above water, not so great. Some of the threats that our marine mammals can face. So ecotourism sounds like a great thing. Come spend some money and see some whales that we'll use to protect them. But it can be too disruptive if human beings get too close, can scare them off. Boat traffic can collide with our whales and dolphins and manatees, causing them injury. Noise, especially with the baleen whales, that they have to be able to communicate to find a mate. If there's too much noise in the ocean, they can't find mates. Noises come from wide ranges of sources, boats, oil platforms, even sonar being used by submarines to find their way around, or sonar that we're using to map the ocean floor, all seem to cause problems with our marine mammals. This is something that's relatively new that scientists have figured out it's a problem and have begun studying. And they're now starting in some areas to ban noisy activities during breeding seasons to not disrupt the behaviors as much. And then oil and other just toxic pollutions. These can get into their lungs. The harmful chemicals can be swallowed. Our whales also have historic pressures from whaling. The whale populace estimated that the whaling industry killed over 1 million whales. Whales are very long-lived and slow to reproduce, so many of them are still endangered, even though whaling does not happen as much anymore. There are some exceptions for whaling for science, and some countries like Japan that still whale even though the rest of the international community frowns upon it. There is a group, the International Whaling Commission, that helps to regulate what whaling does occur. They do this through protection of species, setting sanctuaries and limits. We also have, though, there are other laws within the United States. We've got the Endangered Species Act. So most of our marine mammals are considered endangered or threatened. And then they also have their own protection. There's the Marine Mammal Protection Act. So all of these guys, even like the bottlenose dolphin, who has a very healthy population size, is still protected, meaning you can't hunt them and you can't get too close to them without violating this law. And that'll be it. The video is something to watch later. And